Welcome, everyone. My name is Maria Teresa Barbis. I am one of the co-founders of SFAA and very excited today for this talk with Kate Laster and Manny Robertson. Manny is going to moderate, and Kate is going to present her artwork that also includes the wonderful poster for the Studio 8 Film Festival. I just wanted you all to see how beautiful that turned out. We're so grateful you did that, Kate, for us. This is the catalog available also now to print and digitally for the film festival happening September 19 to 21. And yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to Kate right away. And thanks so much again. Take it away.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria. I'm also really grateful for everyone being here. There's this beautiful connection that we all have through this one beautiful, humbling, contradicting, mysterious place. And some of us maybe not, just through stories. I'm chuffed and honored to have my friend, Manny Robertson, moderate this talk. Manny graduated SFAI with an MFA in 2017. They received the Ketchikan Award in 2016. They currently are based in LA doing design and production work, constantly fabricating things, constantly supporting artists, which has been part of their practice as a person since I've known them, and I'm honored to know them. Um, Everybody's school experience is better if you can search for a pair of knowing eyes, and Manny was always that pair of knowing eyes for me. So I want to give it away to Manny.
Right. And now I will introduce Kate. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm gonna begin with a quote of a single line by the poet John Carter Bush. We are of the going water and the gone, which is from the poem from Kate Bush's The Jig of Life, but also really speaks to all of Kate's work that I have seen grow through the years. Kate is a truly multi-hyphenate artist, activist, archivist, historian, card-carrying member of the Animorphs fan club, coffee connoisseur, a child of educators, and most importantly, one of my chosen family. So I am going to hand it off to Kate to begin her presentation.
Woo! What a joy! Oh my God. I knew that Animorphs were gonna come up. All right, everyone. Fabulous. Yeah, there's a reason we're connected, and dearly chosen family. I'm gonna get the slide deck going. It's such a great call to action to have a slide, of your current practice. And, this is a tip of an artberg. So I hope you guys can see this, dear friends. There'll be totally room for questions in the chat. At the end, Manny and I are going to talk about it. But I'm so esteemed and grateful that you're here. My name is Kate Laster. I'm the daughter of Jonna and Moshe Laster. I often say that to kind of ground myself. I'm currently based in the East Bay of the Bay Area, and I've been here since coming to SFAI in 2016. My work is indelibly tied to water, place, and the absence and presence of people. My recent body of work contains a lot of nonlinear poetry that I put into kind of these interesting modes of being read. I'm really interested in how we touch art, how we move through art, how we look through art, and how something precious and emotional can be given in a really unique way. When I talk about, my family or my chosen family, which is key to who I am, I have to kind of give some context of where I was coming from to the Bay Area. Born and raised in Alaska. This is where I turned 13. This is Utavik, which is the northernmost city in the so-called United States, Turtle Island. These places like carry us and define us, but also open up worlds. And the more you see, the more you realize that we're guests. And, you know, a huge part of my practice is thinking as like a diasporic Jew in place, and knowing, like, you know, there's identity to be a guest, and it's an honor to be a guest in places on Indigenous land. And that's a huge part of what I do with my book forms. And a lot of these recent pieces I have hand laminated and use kind of in the form of emergency manuals or kind of roadmaps. I really love the idea of how they're activated in natural space with the sky between us, but also as a viewfinder. I'm a big fan of the radical nun, Sister Corita Kent, and the idea of her practice as an educator, viewfinder, looking through the work. And in this overview of my own practice, I'm going to kind of use that a lot, the viewfinder, and where we find ourselves, because we're always in between. And you know, I could spend a whole pocket of time in this presentation about how SFAI shaped me, and it was this true call to action. And it was for me. I got my MA and my MFA in 2019. And a huge part of my practice is tied to place, right? Is tied to carving. Carving wood is a huge sensibility and practice. And I think a lot of the time there's two phrases that come up with my work, which is my art is subtractive. By taking away, I reveal, you know, and that's certainly true in woodcut and paper cut. And also my art is about the people we carry with us. And that's not just a one-for-one with figurative work that I've done a lot in my art, but it's also in the social practice and community, and memory making of my art. On the side, I'm working in the Diego Rivera Gallery, which was a very defining job and gift to see such a unique space. I really also show that like picture of Utavik, you know, above the Arctic Circle, kind of as this through line into my work of plants as a really strong symbol and metaphor for me. Plants often symbolize time growing around someone, the perfusion, the seedlets, wind carrying these things and them having their own movement around people outside of maybe capitalist time. And I really love a diptych, two pieces together, making a one, and then reusing my work. I think as a printmaker, I've moved the idea of making multiples, not just as reproducing prints, but also using every kind of grit and glimmer I can pull from my work and reproducing it in a different way, or positioning it in a different way. This piece was my MFA thesis, a house made of woodcuts and prints together that you had to pass through a threshold. And I think of those things really brightly, and it's nice to remember and to remind ourselves always with our art practices, this is just one stone in the river of what you're doing. But a lot of my work, oh yeah, sorry, what, Manny?
I just want to pause on this one for a second really quick.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge how this was such, I think, a pivotal moment in your artistic growth, or like just journey, as we know, growing like plants. But this was the moment also where your work started to evolve, change, transform, all these words, where you walked through the work and you also started doing more paper cut, where you actually walked through the matrix and began
Yes.
visualizing beyond, in which the catharsis gave way to what you can see through it and the world beyond it and growing within the grief. And this is one of my favorite pieces from you, and just seeing how everything grew from within this house.
That's so
Yeah.
true. It is. I mean, okay, Manny needs to be with me for and it is. It's and if you've moved around a lot, I think there's this really interesting symbol of a home, and you have to carry pieces of it with you, and then giving part of your home to people is this
Mhm.
act of trust.
Absolutely. And I know
Um,
I don't know
really
it
sorry if there's any internet.
specifically, and I know there's this very, like, there's a very Jewish tradition of home is where you make it,
Yes.
being
Yeah,
such
there's a
a
Yiddish
nomadic,
term.
like, spreading culture. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, there's a Yiddish concept of Daikat,
Hmm.
which is here-ness, now-ness, and
Yes.
it's totally tied to, again, not claiming land. It's tied to finding yourself in the present,
Yes.
and being a guest and being part of it. So I really like that,
Hmm.
honing in on literally this final, transformative piece of graduate school, and how it actually, like, life really begins once you leave these big chapters,
Yes.
which is such a gift. It's really important.
Hmm.
There's no feeling is final, to quote Rilke, the poet.
Exactly.
Um, yeah,
Very
and these
much,
these all were producing woodcuts, so they all
yeah.
built prints.
And
Okay,
it's very
yeah.
much tomorrow's,
Anytime,
yeah.
Manny.
I would say tomorrow is always ahead of us, but today is always forever. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm going to your artist talk very soon. I'm really I appreciate that through line, and anytime, because it's also like the beauty of having deep friendships that are built around your artwork is like, yeah, you remember uh, making that work.
Yeah.
I brought this work into one of the only other pieces from SFAI I wanted to mention, because it's so relevant and it's ongoing. This is actually my childhood reclaimed passport with images of various people I knew and know who have experiences with migration and stories of migration. Um, and like, again, there's this idea for me of the preciousness of the object is not as important as the reality of people. And I love printing objects, printing these tiny portraits and giving them to people and telling each person's story. So that's been kind of this nexus of what I do. And actually, the lintel beam of the house has these tiny portraits in them. So I'm a maximalist in many ways, that gives way to people, the story. And a lot of that, is just the idea that even when I'm doing more abstracted work or text-based heavy work, it's still connected to people. I want to show these paper cuts and not necessarily do a close reading of them because I could go forever. But I'm definitely a lover of quotation and a lover of action. These are all different political action posters that I've done. The one with the pomegranate is actually a collaboration with Steph Kudisch, another friend
Yeah.
from SFAI, who's shaped everything in my life. And I really am grateful that SFAI was that setting. It's totally random, that we're on this rock and we meet people who understand us. Um, but these pieces all are based off paper cut, including the piece that has Tagalog in it, and Spanish for workers. I was really excited to start working with the Poster Syndicate at SFAI and then have moved into my own practice of making posters. I wanted to put in my workers union poster in here, that Ocean Escalante, who's, I believe, on the chat, so helped design. Um, these are things that are tied to us learning as being working artists that aren't necessarily, boom, you got the lesson and then you understand it. Collective action is constantly ongoing. We're constantly learning. And like, kind of, what is ethics in the arts? What's our responsibility as artists? So this is an example of these pieces being live printed at an action. I'm part of California Jewish Artists for Palestine, very proudly part of that. I think I situate again this idea of Jewish diasporic thinking and also social justice. And right now, among many genocides that are happening, there is a genocide in Palestine. and what is our responsibility as artists and our voice, and also as, my own cultural identity, my community has a long history of standing up towards injustice, and this is that collective call. It feels so organic. And I like this moment of including this one paper cut because, of course, my printmaker way, it translates into something else, this banner. And there's Steph Kudisch, SFAI alum as well, along with Ava and Sophia. And this action was very recent, but it's ongoing in the call for what is the responsibility and accountability for our arts institutions, because they are part of what we do. They're for us in many ways. Um, I use paper cuts so often because when I started working full time, I graduated school and I was working full time and I couldn't bring a slab of wood with me to work. So paper cut, with its legacy of stencil, papel picado, Chinese paper cut in the bay, it pulls to me. It's subtractive, it's quick, it's accessible, and yet it takes this steady hand and really calls to me, especially with language. And I use that a lot, like this non-linear healing, this non-linear poetry of kind of making sense of things. And amid that time of leaving school and the whole world changing, as it still has changed today with the pandemic, there was this tiny window of time where I got to do a bunch of residencies before that. And this is, I share this because it's a really important connector to my practice. This series of blocks that I started at Vermont Studio Center, which I believe are gone now because of the flooding, um, are a portrait of me and my father, who's probably one of the most informative people in my life, um, Moshe. And this is a live printing of one of those blocks once it was finished carved. And they're so big, there's this emphasis in having people help print them. And we're printing by hand, which has this real power to it. And I think about families a lot and the space between people. I've spent so much of my time when I left Alaska missing people, and I still miss them. And I think about that absence a lot. And this portrait was done when my father was still alive, and we were having conversations on the phone a lot. And it was the space between us. And that space continues today. Before I did this talk, there was one person I wanted to talk to more than anyone, and that was my dad. He passed away in 2021, and I couldn't not make art about it. I think a lot of people have that feeling in their heart in some way. I come from Alaska, so one of the totems that I got to see raised, you know, in Ketchikan is a healing heart totem. And I think that's such a classic example of losing someone and there's a hole in your heart. And I share this piece for many reasons. One, because I do love to draw figurative work and in the moment and that breadth that we have with people that lasts lifetimes, but also the chatter of all of these paper cuts, this aliveness, this memory. And
Yeah.
I had to do it, and I still make artwork about my dad a lot, and I carry him with me, and I think of it as a strength. And before losing my father in my 20s, I was still thinking a lot about absence and death. A lot of important people in my life, I can't call, I can't find, but I find them in my hands in my art making, and I think about that legacy making and how it's so important to just make it and make it. Like, again, the repurposing of things I do over and over again, finding place, small residency in a ghost town. That was fun. I'm thinking about timing too. But I really love collages of memory, and that's reflected in my materiality. Sometimes I carve surfaces more than just making a print from them. The matrix, the block is the piece. Um, and a lot about pedagogy and education shows up, tying to my art history brain. which I was really honored to be offered the MA at SFAI. But so much is about connecting the past. The past didn't go anywhere. It's with us. It's connected to us. Another threshold too. Um, East Coast love, some upstate New York.
Can I also just do a quick on your use of the past in all your work? I also want to know how much I love your use of quotation and another called your MA, how you always cite who the quotation is from in the work. In the matrix
Yes.
is who said it. So it's not a lost quote with just quotations. It's literally this is who spoke these words.
Yeah.
And you're acknowledging how the past and these people, how it even ties to with your maximalist art making, there's always room for everyone. Like, I think a thing that happens in pedagogy and art school is there's this real kind of like fetishization of minimalism as a tie to intellectualism. And then when we go back into the real world, we realize that intellectualism has nothing if it doesn't have community, because humans at the end of the day are much more like a hive mind that all have to work together than anything. So this acknowledgement of we may be all part of the same thing, but we are individual parts that all have to work together.
Yeah. Oh,
So each
yeah. No,
quote
and
gets its
you're
citation. And I love
yeah.
that.
It is. It's so important. Like so many times. Thank you so much for saying that. Um, every like I really do kind of believe in everything is political, but I also think maybe a really good way of saying that is everything is contextual.
Yes, we
Yeah,
exist.
citation. Yeah, yeah. There's so many quotes to jump into, but it really is like we're never in this vacuum. We're never
Mhm.
alone. And like, even this piece, which is kind of like a remixed chuppah, which is like often people in Jewish married under these, but I wanted to make something that was like for platonic bonds and relationships that are not just um, romantic. Like, what is
Yeah.
that? What is that threshold you go through with someone? And I made it in a week with a team of artists at Pillow Fort Art Residency in Andes, New York, and I was so sick the whole time. But it was like a real catharsis itself making that. And like again, yeah, it's always we're moving with people, even if you're walking alone.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to a lot of my most recent work. Radiator was a one-room installation of my work tied to public texts at the Art, Design, and Architecture Museum in UC Santa Barbara. It was my first commissioned museum work. I was really honored to have that. And it's a suite of these almost kind of kite-like book forms. I really love that silhouette is such a part of paper cut, from Jewish paper cut, Chinese paper cut. There's, crankies, which are like the first animated films of people holding these cut shapes to make animation with shadow and light. And that definitely translates to a lot of what I do with my work and a bit of wordplay. There's quotation here. There's absolutely, these things that are tied to, people I love who I never get to meet, Leslie Feinberg, Marsha P. Johnson, but they're with me in words and action, and I constantly look to them. And like a great another example of this repetition in printmaking is this is the painting that remains from my stencil paper cuts. Because I have to paint things, I have to use the spray. And so this kind of reverse ghost print almost exists. And here's the actual scan form that just an amazing point for all artists. Get a friend who actually knows how to use Photoshop. Manny helped me scan of these paper cuts because they're so large they don't fit in a scanner bed,
Hmm.
but they do fit really well in train windows. I'm always again thinking about how do we look through work? Um, how do we find these things? And that's to say, like this is again, there's so many ways to connect this work. I was working at a hospitality house at the time. I was learning so much about restorative justice and trauma responses, things in my own body, and thinking about how we move through the world. And this term that I've been using a lot recently is like lawn haul collaboration, but I realize because these are almost journal-like, I see like lawn game collaboration in here, and it's cool. This love letter to myself years ago. I really love including the actual text that's in these pieces, because part of what's so great about making political paper cuts that are sometimes hard to read and sometimes easy to kind of decode is it takes time and they can get kind of under the all-seeing eye. But I enjoy having the accessible nature of them. And certainly as a dyslexic person, there's always been this hesitancy with making the perfect words and having something so spelled correctly within a construct, framed correctly, and just letting myself go and writing poetry in this format has opened up a doorway for me that's so unique. And ooh, I want to see if I can get the video to play. This is always the test of time. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Going.
you know, placemaking, viewfinding is also just if you look at the object itself, the art piece, and I view this with my figurative work as well. Where do you enter it? What is the stanza? What is the image that pulls you through? And I really do believe in that, like choose your own adventure of art making and image finding and like locking into some sort of lodestone, like a magnetic force in the art it gives away. Um, and I do place these like laminated books in the water. Don't worry, they never like return to the tide. But they are meant to have this power of decay. They are meant to be weathered and witness to life. I believe that art is mortal, that like we are mortal, we have a duty of witnessing and making and holding memory and art and action. And it's hard to like encapsulate a lot of things, but I think we did it where we have the capacity to have questions and conversation. And I'm so grateful to continue to find space for making that. Um, this most recent piece that I'm holding was acquired by SF and I'm very proud of that. Um, and it's titled Nation Activism, that the knowledge of what you see and what you take into this world is like you're becoming part of the archive holding it. And I think that art has that duty, but also we all have it. And there's so many images and ideas that we don't consent to say very like, in heavy truth of what's happening right now. And it's really important. It's not just beauty, it's responsibility, legacy, connection. We carry people with us, all of us do. So if you can today, maybe spend some time with water. Um, but yeah, Manny, it's so nice to just be
Yeah.
like, well, shall we have some more conversation?
Yeah. I wanted to say a little bit about this image also and how it calls to a lot of, especially your paperwork and how you, I guess, pose them. I mean, also with the decay, it's very much the body decays, but the memory lives on for sure. But also how the way you pose with a lot of the work really becomes like what is the word? Referential of like the idea of the march and just marching and how marching is very much
Yes.
its own river and its own
Yes.
procession of who you carry with you. Where it's
Yes.
like this image itself, we can see you're holding everyone with you. We can also see that Moshe is on your shoulders and behind you in the water. He's always with you in the water, even though he has moved on. Like we know he's always there, even if he's not. And we can just see it so clearly in this image. And just the use of water to really show grief and action at the same time
Mm,
as parallel and like constricting roads that work together.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it it is elemental, and it's such a beautiful reference point that's so obvious too, which is like, and I didn't name it, but yeah, like signage, protesting, holding words above us. And there's often call these like performances. I often not only is it dipping into the water, it's pulling them out. It's using a lot of movement and walking, and the wind can fight you, which I
Yeah,
love.
can and
Um,
will.
well, yeah, that's and will, and absolutely as it should. Uh, there's yeah, there's Tashlik is coming up, tied to Russian people throw
Mhm.
small seeds and crumbs into the water, and I think about yeah, the renewal of water is very, very important. I didn't include some of my paper cut figurative work of my dad with water, but that's I kind of liked, giving space for the conversation and making sure uh, it's an open door, right? It's the threshold between the letters that you can enter through. Um, and that's certainly true. Like, it's so nice having an image guide too of like, oh yeah, we can go back
Yeah.
to this. Star people are beautiful people is a quote from a sign that Marsha P. Johnson drew herself. I believe the reference image is from 1979. I don't want to be so firm with the year as a dyslexic
Yeah.
person, but it's a really beautiful image, and it's slogans have an economy of language, and they can be so punchy and so clear, and clarity and generosity really matter. And I think about how, yeah, this is a Zoom room full of star people right now. Um, and
Mhm.
you're all beautiful.
So we have a question from Sarah.
Ooh.
For Kate, where did you first hear the quote, "No one is going to give you the education you need to overthrow them" by Asada Shakur?
Oh, great
Yeah.
question. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay. And this is great. This is teamwork. Thanks, everybody. I get so distracted. And I'm pulling this up to this is again in Cisco, Utah, in a ghost town, artist residency. I really was so lucky the upbringing I had. My dad was a teacher. So was my mom, but he was really into pedagogy of the oppressed, which is a great text, contemporary text about so many of these concepts. And Shakur's work really came up in kind of that similar couplet of books that when I was around 14, 15, my dad was like giving me. And at that time, I was homeschooled in Alaska. So I was being given incendiary texts by my dad. And the rest is history or herstory.
That's great.
But I love this idea because like I have such reverence for the people I love, but that doesn't mean putting them on a pedestal either. Like this is so intrinsically tied to the fact that we have to build something new. We cannot, just hold on to the things that have been and not question them and not alter them or completely move away from them. And I held on to that so tightly. I went to school, and then 2020, that summer is just etched in my mind, and it was so viscerally weird to be in a ghost town of one other person carving this. So it holds heavy with me. Thanks, Sarah.
We have another question. Can you talk about how you are navigating sharing work digitally in these times with how many different all-seeing eyes are on resistance artists?
Ooh, these are
Yeah.
yeah, we're all caffeinated. I
Get
love
my
it. I love
journey.
it. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up some of the paper cuts as like an example for this question. It's a really good question. Um, One of my favorite professors at SFAI, Dr. Lasse Schöfig, was an art and technology professor. And I was a TA for him, and he talked a lot about computer salience, which is computers being able to read images, describe them. And again, like coming from a disability justice background, alt descriptions for images are such a powerful thing, but also kind of disobedient letter form um, is like what I aspire to do sometimes. A lot of the text, like these images, are so much more idiosyncratic, but there's still things that are tied to MDR, certain kinds of therapy. There's things that are tied to economic injustice, like broken windows theory, and also like the idea of hyper like the Overton window, and I play on this with the window of tolerance, which is when you can meet someone when you have two totally opposed different views. Not really fully answering that part of the question, but still highly internet kind of work. Like I think of my nonlinear paper cut poetry as very like hyperlinks, digital, informed. Where does your brain keep linking things? But it is true that like when I show scrolling with y'all, which is also a way of sharing art, I encourage everybody to do, is having some sort of ritual that's truly mine. And, when I'm holding my art is when I feel the most myself, close to when I'm making it. And the snapshot is really beautiful to share, and I'm so grateful I have it. A lot of these photos are documented by my friend Steph or my partner Julio. Um, they're really, really important to me, but that's like I'm giving just a crumb of it online. And I love that. Like again, as a homeschooled kid from Alaska, I feel like I was made for the internet. I'm ready to share things and be discerning. But I am also someone who's hyper vulnerable, and in school that could be difficult, and in life that can be difficult. But the restorative crumb goes both ways, and I've had such beautiful connections through sharing. So even if it is scary, consider it the same way we have political muscles. You have to stretch your political muscles, your vulnerable muscles, to become a little more swift in it. And I see, I mean, like, uh, so many people here, even the question havers, are doing that. So I hope that answers. We can continue the conversation.
There's another question. I really love what you said about your paper cuts acting as roadmaps. Can you speak more on that
Mm.
concept as well?
Ooh,
Should we go
yeah,
to the train
I love
window
that.
picture?
Yes. Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I really am happy we're filling the space with questions, and there's so many jumping off points. But this whole question of like where do you well, I've got to go the other way, y'all. Sorry.
Nope.
When I say nonlinear, I mean it. Yeah,
Speaking of
this is
maps,
yeah,
we're going the wrong way.
if it's a map, it's not your typical map. And I hesitated to show, I didn't want to show everything I've ever made, but there's a body of my work that's really interested in safety manuals, flight safety manuals. And I think that a lot of these paper cut books fall into the same um, hyperfixation for me, which is how do you make instructions for drowning? How do you make instructions for catastrophe or personal trauma that inevitably finds all of us? And I believe this is just kind of my own lived experience that those kinds of objects are not A, B, C, D. They're so much like 1, 2, 7, 8, Z, Q, like they're jumbled in different ways with symbols and letter forms and plants and roots. And kind of like I'll often have a lot of research in these, from the trauma responses to uh there's a Soviet satellite Sputnik uh here in this work, and I often think of my art as transmission. What's the one transmission that makes it? And that loops to like the internet too. Like, what's the one bit of transmission that connects to someone? What's the almost insurmountable, improbable person that finds it? There's this really beautiful Margaret Mead, James Baldwin interview, Raps on Race, where they talk about the improbable people. who will find you, who do something, who act out, who try against all social programming and societal norms to do something just for their fellow people. And so if there's like one little image in here that connects to someone, I don't know which it's going to be. I don't know, like, like I've installed these works where they're flipped the other way, or where it's, again, that negative space of the image. Um, and, that's to say that maybe someday when I'm gone, how these images will be arranged will be, chronologically, or, this theme. But I'm so often like, but it all is connected. Um, and the work of memory takes years. I'm in my 30s finally, which is such a gift to age. And I'm just now processing certain things in my life that happened when I was a teenager, which is a gift. And so often in that time, it's like, oh, I think I have a handle on it. I think I understand. But this idea of, again, a diptych folds, I do love a big work that can become smaller. A lot of my statements have talked about making monumental work that's also delicate, whether it's actual structures or really small things. I feel like that weight of the past is
Oh, okay.
built
Think we lost you for a second.
to what I do
Oh, there you are.
constantly. Oh, well, just believe
Okay.
I said something really smart.
And I was gonna say,
Yeah.
kind of to like keep on that track, we used to talk about this a lot in school, and we still talk about it to this day with our own art making, where we are always thinking of who the audience is gonna be, but truly at the end of the day, we are the main audience of our work. We're making it for
Mm,
ourselves, we're making it from our experience. That's what every artist really is doing. And we're making it for people that have felt the things we felt or maybe haven't, but
yeah.
truly we are doing this from within ourselves, and that's who we're sharing it with.
Mm,
So
mm.
it's one of those where it's like it is for us, and we have to think about the audience, and when we're gone, that the context will change again.
Absolutely. And that speaks on to when you find it later, when you go back to your own work, you are
Hmm.
different. You're a
Yeah.
different person.
Well,
Yeah, that's
I think we both kind of believe there's no truly finished piece because we've both gone back and started working on work we haven't touched in 6, 7 years and been like, you know what? We've both grown. Me and this work
yeah.
have grown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You gotta. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so true. The transmission to the self, the calls are coming inside from inside the house.
Hmm. What is your favorite scary movie?
Yeah, I mean, for me, oh, yeah, this is great. I like that people are connecting with that. And that positionality of being really close to your own experience is not the same as kind of believing your experience is the baseline.
Exactly.
And the more idiosyncratic, the more personal you are, the more there's that space for finding each other.
Hmm.
And I even had this in one of my pieces. I forgot because I get excited. If you can't tell, y'all. But like in this paper cut, there's this phrase I wrote, in this effervescent exhaustion, may we find each other.
Mm.
And that's just as much as like, can you continue to find yourself, and what stays and what remains true to you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
May our deep sighs synchronize.
Ah, true. It's true. Um, yeah, I'm down to answer any questions or show
Hmm.
specific work. I
Yeah.
can't believe I did the brevity is the soul of wit, but like all of these images are, through you can see my website, you can touch base with me on Instagram,
Mm.
or in person. Oh, cool.
Let's see. We have another. Your work in Santa Barbara looks fantastic. Shout out. Do you have another show in the works, or will we see another book show soon?
Oh, Sarah
Question.
Samano.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sarah,
yeah,
enjoy.
yeah. Where's the dates? Where's the location?
Hmm.
One of my
Buff
greatest.
club, another club. Oh, hold on. Little internet. Wait a second. We were having some technical difficulties before the call, but Kate should be back within a couple seconds. Let me see. We made it almost through the whole thing, which is great.
I feel like
Okay,
we did pretty good. We did
we
pretty
did.
good because the little test run we did at the very beginning
Yeah.
was way more spotty than what it ended up being during
Right?
the talk. So
We made it a
um
full 47 minutes.
I know.
Oh, Kate will be back.
But
Hold on.
before Kate hops back on, I just want to show you again the work that she did for the Studio 8 Film Festival, which is also a paper cut. And I did not know her work. We actually have to thank Becky Alexander for you know, letting us know about Kate. And it's just been such a treasure for us to have this image that she did about, our beloved campus. And then here also, Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is one of the murals, correct, in the library. And Becky can't speak because I have to unmute her, but I'm gonna ask to unmute her. I believe that this is in the library that is in in what was the big room, right, Becky? I'm not sure
Oh,
if she's there. Okay, let me see if
yeah.
Kate is coming back.
She texted me that they are reconnecting, so they should be
Okay,
back
great.
in a
Awesome.
second.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll just fill the time we have with letting you know September 19 to 21 is the film festival. It's the second edition
Mhm.
of the Studio 8 Film Festival. You probably all know Studio 8 and 800 Chestnut. And we have 3 full days. A Friday at Shapeshifters, curated by April, September, and Rye Purvis, with 8 films by alumni. And then we have a really big day Saturday at the Roxy Theater with 3 screenings. It's a tribute to Gunvor Nelson, and then the Jurors screening, and the selection of the open call that we had. And then the Sunday is at SF MoMA, which is kind of like a first for us to be collaborating with SF MoMA. And it's going to be a Lawrence Jordan tribute. And you can get the tickets on our website. Sunday is free. The Roxy is sliding scale, $10. The first 25 are free. And if you're in this talk today and you want to go, let me know. I put you on the guest list. And Friday is also $10 sliding scale at Shapeshifters.
And Kate said they're back in.
Perfect.
Yes,
Let me grab
I am.
her.
Awesome.
Yes.
But I love the plug. Maybe that was
The meant to be.
meant to be. Um, it was meant to be, everyone. Thanks for their patience. Um, and like this is a little good closing thread. Maybe if I could have video, would that be okay? To
Please.
just
Yeah.
Yeah. I just made you
oh
co-host, so and I
yes, oh
can
thank
add
you.
you
Not
again.
to
There we
oh
go.
oh brilliant.
Ah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have such big thanks and like I think it's such a good connection to have it tied to like the screening, like this ongoing living beautiful celebration of artists. It's so good. Hopefully this full screen exists. I'm hoping. Can y'all see this still?
Yeah,
Yes.
it looks great.
Okay. Okay.
And I think
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
we
And I
have
just
another question.
because like okay, perfect. Yeah, yeah. And also just following up with Sarah, I'm applying for a bunch of things. Hopefully that'll happen. But also the show that I just did tied to my work at Naiad Art Center that was at Kala was a joyful experience of artists at progressive art studios as well as Hospitality House and friends all over the United States. So I think there's more ahead about language and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff being the broad living banter of life. I can't see the question, sadly.
Oh, the new question? Um, there's a new question that are there
Yes.
mediums you haven't yet explored that you're excited to experiment with?
Wow, I love that.
Mhm.
I'm constantly wanting to know more about photography, like analog photography, specifically because so much of my ritual work involves, the elements in themselves, like pausing with the light and shadows. I'm really interested in that. And, printmaking will always be one of my great loves. So, I feel like specifically the practice of lithograph, not lithograph, it's dreamy. Lithograph itself, but also rubylith, which is a form of screen printing that involves cutting a red film, um, really intrigues me. And poetry. I'm sneaky with my poetry doing it this way, but I selfishly realize these are poems, so I need to do something with that. My dad always wanted me to pursue poetry. Like he was really excited when I got my dual degrees, but he was like, "Well, what about poetry?" But he would also be like, "What about stand up?" Like he was really
Mhm. Is there a
always
difference?
what if. Yeah, what else is going on? Yeah. Oh, I love this comment. I can see this one because I'm finally
Mhm.
in the internet. Um, yeah, Rosh Hashanah, we are told our responsibility is to heal the world. Your work is a beautiful and powerful response. Thank you. Yeah. Uh, we're holding each other a lot of the time too. Um, I think of these also as nets, like they catch meaning, they catch light. Yeah. And maybe that's also another skill that I miss. I grew up doing a lot of hiking and living, close to the land, fishing. But I would love to learn more about knot tying. Maybe that's another genre of art making.
Mhm. Whole history of knot tying as well, cross
Mm.
cultures.
It is. I mean, there's a lot, as we love to say, there's a lot to unpack, and they would be forever grateful. Um, Yeah, there's so much to untie and then to tether. Like you're never by yourself. And what we learn about art is responsibility, but we also learn like again these ethical connections. It's not uh you know, in my career, leaving school, I've understood more about censorship. I've understood more about plagiarism. I've understood more about commitment and responsibility and reciprocity. Um, and it's an ongoing, long haul, long life work. Whatever time we're given, it is a gift. And I feel excited just seeing some of the familiar names in this group. Thank you so much for giving a window of time. And again, I really want to just super thank Manny for being here, and Maria for reaching out.
Thank you for bringing me on. It's an honor to moderate.
Yes, yes. Oh, and thank you, Ocean. And that's a nice leaving note too of what I sometimes do with my art practice, even online, is I do these open calls of themes. And I've done a whole mailer book that took forever, took years to make about rest and burnout. And I want to do something like that again. And everybody, please look to that. I love all your opinions and ideas. Yeah, we're in this together. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.